Aren't those roosters pretty? I need to decide between the gray one and the brown and white one, and then the other one will go to my mom. Mom, do you know which one you want? Well, good morning, guys. And it has been a minute. I think 2 weeks. I haven't done a video in 2 weeks. Kind of. I've been editing some B-roll and other footage. But I haven't put anything out because I was taking a little vacation. I think it's been the entirety of my YouTube life since I've taken 2 weeks off from making a video. Well over a year it's been. So I was happy for the little break. Thank you guys for your patience. And I did a lot of reading in this winter season. I am just cozied up inside, devouring book after book. But I am back. And I wanted to run you guys through a quick update in the garden, which looks a little worse for wear since last night because it has been getting really cold this last weekend. It's been windy all weekend, and I think the lows for the city were in the 20s, which means we probably got into the teens here, and there is a lot of damage on my frost-tolerant crops, so I'm pretty sure we got below 20 degrees Fahrenheit last night. These poor guys look a little sad. This is gonna be permanent frost damage. The rest of the plant is healthy. I mean, these guys are all still alive, but it definitely got a little too cold for their liking last night. You can see how sad and wilted some of these broccoli plants look. They did not look like this yesterday. I'm not quite sure what temperature it got down to last night because I didn't come out here at 6 in the morning in the freezing cold to check the temperature. But it definitely got below 20 from what I can tell by the condition of my plants. I have come through here and harvested quite a bit. I had some cauliflower harvest earlier in the week and I think I pulled out 1 broccoli. I've still got a couple plants left to harvest though. This guy's huge. And although I wasn't putting out videos, I did record some small things here and there that I did over the course of a week or so in the garden that I will be showing you guys later on in this video. Oh no, my calendula. Got a couple flowers on here. This part of the plant is still good. It must have gotten pretty cold last night. I'm still cold. It's about 50 degrees in the garden right now, and I think it's 11 a.m. I tried to turn on the water to water these root vegetables, and the hose is still frozen. Most of the broccoli and cauliflower that had come to a head before we started getting pretty cold is harvested. Like all of these plants in the in-ground garden that don't have a head yet, we're just gonna wait it out throughout the next couple months and see if I get any harvest from them. I don't think they'll necessarily die unless it gets down to 0 or something, then those plants might give out. But last year in the winter, even though I didn't have any harvest before, like this time, they ended up surviving through the winter, the plants did, and into the spring, and then they gave me a harvest. So as long as I can keep these guys alive through the winter, I should be able to get a harvest in the early spring of next year. But all of these first 2 beds, just about harvested completely. What I haven't done yet is pick some of these cabbages. This one's pretty large. I should probably get this guy and maybe this guy today or tomorrow. But the rest of these plants in this bed next to the cabbage is going to be cauliflower. And although these are really large, they didn't really start producing a head as fast as the others did. They were planted a little bit later. The issue with cauliflower is that when it freezes, it just becomes inedible. I mean, I've had broccoli freeze before and it's okay. It's a little, the flower head part that you actually eat is hardier than cauliflower is. And this is a whole bed of cauliflower that is large enough to be producing me a head, but it's not good weather for it. So I need it to warm back up just for a couple weeks so I can get some food out of these guys, because if they start producing a head now and it's been in the 20s, I'm just gonna get mushy cauliflower that's gonna go to the chickens. I just saw some broccoli. Oh, hello little guy. Hooray. Are all these guys producing? Oh, there's a little baby one. And here too. That makes me happy. I haven't really super been in the garden these past week or so. I've been watering and coming out just to check over things and make sure nothing's dying. But I've really taken these last 2 weeks off and just been through like 10 books. But it's been nice just having the complete time off from the garden because there's not much to do. I've just been reading and working, trying to pick up some extra shifts to make some money for Christmas presents. But like I said, I'm not leaving you guys without any content. Of course, there are always homesteady things to do on a regular basis, and usually they're just not substantial enough to make an entire video out of. So I just did a little bit of recording for things that I did around the house or around the property these last 2 weeks, and I'm going to voice over that and show you guys the clips here after this. And it is almost time for me to put the hydroponic seedlings in the grow tower, so I need to get that set up here pretty soon and get those guys planted so that I can have salads. Hooray, because I did not plant any lettuce in my garden this year. But soon that hydroponics tower will be up and I will be doing videos on the tower, of course. But I also wanted to ask you guys what kind of content you wanted to see over this winter season. There's not a whole lot to do in the way of gardening in the winter time here. So of course I have my garden, I have tons of food. It's just not growing at a super fast pace. I'm not planting a whole bunch of stuff. So there's not a lot to talk about besides updating you on the state of the garden. So I would love your input on what you guys want to see from me. If there's any specific videos I can do teaching you something, I would love that, because this channel is for you guys, whether that be for information or entertainment. I would love to know what you want to see. So let me know down in the comments below and enjoy the next few clips. And this morning I went out to harvest as many vegetables as I could that were ready. First and foremost were a lot of these radishes. Now these radishes are the ones from goingtoseed.org, so most of them I don't have a name for, and they're likely crosses between varieties, so they may not even have a name. But this thing that I pulled out, which was indeed a radish, I tasted it later on. It was large. It was almost as big as a turnip, and I was a little confused as to what it was until I took a bite, but that was a radish. And all of these that I'm pulling out here, with the exception of one purple top turnip, are going to be radishes of various varieties. I believe I got 2 daikons. This is a daikon I'm about to pull out, and these guys are huge. I'm completely blown away by the size of daikon radishes. I've never grown them before, but I will definitely be growing them again. I did harvest 2 cauliflower this week as well that were ready to go, and thankfully I got them out of the garden before the really hard freezes we had these past couple days over the weekend, or else I might have just lost these altogether. But both of them turned out about this size. They were great. I have not eaten them yet, and if anyone has any suggestions for what to do with cauliflower, I am very open to new ideas, because I'm kind of intrigued at the idea of fermenting cauliflower. I've just never tried it before, and I'm not sure I want to use what small harvest I have on a recipe I might not like. And nothing goes to waste. I am remulching these leaves in the garden beds, and whatever doesn't fit in the garden I give to the chickens. On this day, I finally got something done that I'd been needing to do for several weeks, which was blanch and freeze this broccoli that I had pulled out of the garden. It did last quite a while in the fridge. I kept it in the crisper drawer in a plastic bag with moist paper towels inside the bag. It lasted quite a while in the fridge, but it was starting to yellow and I needed to take care of it. So what I'm doing here is just blanching the broccoli florets, which I cut off the stalk, in boiling water for about 3 minutes. And then I'm immediately transferring that boiled broccoli to a cool bowl of water. I didn't have any ice on hand, so I actually ended up just taking the bowl over to the sink and running cold water over it to cool off the broccoli real quick. It works in a pinch, although usually you would submerge it in an ice bath after you're done blanching. The broccoli was then transferred over to just a towel to let it drip dry a little bit. That way I'm not freezing a bunch of water in with the broccoli, because after this I'm going to lay it on a parchment paper, or I don't think I had parchment paper. No, I didn't have any parchment paper, just some aluminum foil. And you're gonna flash freeze this, which is essentially just sticking it in the freezer on a flat surface like this tray that I have, so that the pieces freeze separately from each other. If you were to just throw that wet broccoli in a bag, it will all freeze together in one giant block and then be really difficult to unfreeze when you need to cook it. This clip is a project that I have been very excited to start this winter season, because I intend to make the most of not having to be out in the garden so much and really expand my kitchen skills and preserving skills. One of the ways to do this is with fermentation. I think I've told you guys before, I'm very excited to start some kombucha this winter for the first time. And what I'm making right here is called a ginger bug. So a ginger bug is just fermented ginger and sugar, and it creates this, basically the ginger bug is a starter for several types of fermented bubbly drinks you can make. For example, you can make ginger beer quite easily once you have this ginger bug started. You feed it every day just like you would feed a sourdough starter. So what I'm making right here is the first step in making this ginger bug, and then from every day on out, I will be feeding it regular portions of more ginger, water, and sugar. If you guys are interested, I can talk about how to make my ginger bug in a later video. I'm not going to do an instructional right now because this is the first time I have ever done this. I am not an expert, although I do ferment pretty regularly. I've never made a ginger bug starter. So I'm going to test this out, see how it goes for a couple days, maybe make a few sodas. And then if y'all are interested, I will do a more in-depth video of ginger bugs and how to make them and how to use them. This is a long overdue project of flipping the compost pile and generally cleaning up the backyard. The first thing I did was flip that compost pile, which I hadn't done in quite a while. As I've told you guys, I seriously slacked on my compost this year. I'm also just slowly but surely trying to pull all the weeds around the property and pile them up so we can do one big burn pile. It's a little difficult when it's windy and we can't burn it and then the weeds just blow out of the pile. But it felt good today to get out in the sun, get some vitamin D, and clean up a portion of the backyard, so at least I had something pretty to look at. And on this day, I needed to do something with those radishes that I had pulled out at the beginning of the clips of videos. I have 4 radishes and 1 turnip in a bag in my fridge that need to be dealt with because they're root vegetables, and if you just leave them too long in there, they'll start to get mushy and soft and it won't be any good anymore. I had found this recipe for a zesty radish coleslaw that I've made several times since I found it a couple months ago. Very, very good recipe. Unfortunately, I just have way too much radish for it. So I looked online for a fermented radish recipe, and I found one that looked interesting. It had garlic cloves in it as well as red onion mixed together with, I don't know what type of radish they used, but this one right here that I'm using is just one single daikon radish. So using the radish that I had just pulled from the garden a couple days ago, as well as homegrown garlic, and this is one of my mom's homegrown red onions, which didn't look too great for eating on the inside, but I just took the center part out that had the stalks in it and used the outside of the onion. And all those went into a mason jar with some water, and I did the salinity at 5% this time, just because radishes hold so much water. You want to add a little bit more salt to keep it safe, because as these plants break down in the fermentation process, they will release a lot of water, which will dilute your solution. So just always be aware of that. If you guys are fermenting something with a really, really high water content, you're going to want to add more salt than you usually use. I just did this yesterday. We'll have to see how it turns out. In about 2 weeks, my house is colder than usual right now because of the winter. But that's what I've accomplished so far, and thank you guys for joining me. We should be back to our regularly scheduled programming, and I will catch you on the next one.